welcome to Nerd Sports. Today we're going to talk about rugby, right?
Hey, you donate blood. You go there. Definitely.
No.
Rugby players, no, you thought I was going to stop you cold.
Well,
Rugby
you usually
players,
do.
Dude, rugby players, those are some fucking hard-knuckle guys, man.
They are. I love watching the Blacks.
Yeah, the
New Zealand
New
Blacks.
Zealand All Blacks. Yeah, the All Blacks. Yeah, not blacks, All Blacks. I mean, I get that you like to go to those types of websites, but come on, man, seriously.
Well, I don't like it boning.
Oh, no, shut up. Go away.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway. Like, oh shit, wait a minute. I opened up that door. We need to stop. We need to stop.
Back it up right in your face. Yeah, so...
yeah, what happened in the news?
Oh, new power rankings came out for baseball.
Really?
Yeah, everybody was performing fellatio on the Los Angeles Dodgers. And they're like, oh, they're the best team in baseball. Well, that's just basically because they were coming back as the reigning world champions from the forgotten, though we would like to forget, season of 2020. Okay. The pandemic season. But anyway.
Yeah, no, that was another thing that I found out this week is because of the pandemic and everything like that, everybody had shorter innings, and that was because of the pandemic. But they're trying to put everything back to 9 innings again.
Well, no, it's not that they were shortening the games. It's just the fact that instead of the 162 games, there was only 80. So, it was a shortened season. Games were still being played at length, but it's just the fact that with the shortened schedules, you didn't see a lot of the traditional intra-league games. You didn't see a lot of the coast hopping from East Coast to West Coast and back and forth, and vice versa.
Oh, okay.
It was a lot of divisional games, and a lot of games being played in those particular regions. So we didn't see a lot of the matchups that we would have normally seen, like last year. Where you talk about Seattle's, the Mariners are traditionally one of the more traveled ball clubs in the country or in the major leagues because they're kind of out there on their own in an island up there in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
They book the most mileage every year.
Okay.
But
from what I just pulled it up and everything, I don't know if you're gonna be happy about that. The number 1 spot.
Yeah, I know because I've already got it pulled up. So yeah, so everybody's just kind of like they were suckling at the teat of the Dodgers, like, oh, they're the best team in baseball. It's like, have you seen the way that the Dodgers have been playing lately? No, but the new number 1 team on the power rankings is my Boston Red Sox. Fuck yeah! So
even
not
though
a
they
single
lost
voter.
to though they lost to the
yeah,
Rangers,
so they dropped 3 out of 4. Okay, so blind pig's got to find a truffle every once in a while. Squirrel's got to find a nut. Sun shines on a dog's ass.
And Dodgers aren't even in the top 5. They're only in the top 7.
And not a single voter, sports writers or whatever. None of this. There wasn't a single voter across the board that went rogue. So, I mean, it was like a unanimous number 1. Hey, they're the best team in baseball right now.
Okay.
They're the first team to get to 20 wins. That happened the other day in Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore being Baltimore. The problem with the Orioles is the fact that they had these core players. And they started trading them away to try to rebuild their system, rebuild their farm system, so they get back to where they seem like they're right there on the cusp of becoming competitive again. But then all of a sudden, they blow it up and they start over. So, and I don't know what's going on in Baltimore. Baltimore used to have a really great club. You had a lot of people that are in the Hall of Fame, like Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken Jr. I mean, they all played in Baltimore. And Baltimore, I mean, they've got one World Series championship that I remember. It was back in the 80s. But I mean, they were competitive enough and consistent enough to where they'd just be a pain in the ass for the perennial powerhouse teams. But that's not so much the case anymore. Now they came out of the gates and they swept Boston at home, or at Fenway to open up the season. So I mean, they were in first place for a week, and then they started going all Baltimore Orioles. So. They started playing their brand of baseball again, and you really started seeing some of the more glaring deficiencies on the defensive side of the game. Their center fielder Mountcastle, watching this guy field a fly ball is an adventure. Because it's almost like he loses track of the ball 2 to 3 times between the time it comes off the bat to the time that it actually hits near his glove or in his glove. it's kind of funny. It's laughable, but if you're a fan of parity in baseball, 19 teams have records of 500 or better this year so far to this point in the season, which is it's that's exciting. I mean, I think it's good for the game. You're not going to have these runaway teams like the Dodgers or the Yankees, which the Yankees, they had the worst record in baseball for the longest time. Now that distinction dubiously belongs to Detroit. But it's a 162 game season for a reason. So we're going to see those ebbs, those flow.
Yeah, it's going to be like a
yeah. It's going to be a pendulum. It's going to swing back and forth. But I think that the longer that the season goes, the more that you're going to see that parity that we get to kind of live in during the first part of the season. That's going to weed itself out, and it's going to wane back, and you're going to really start to see those teams that have built good foundations to start the season with, starting back in the winter meetings in December, all the way through spring training and up into this part of the season. Once we get to the All-Star break and we get to the trade deadline, you're going to start seeing those teams that are really in it to, that they're all in on trying to not only get to the playoffs but to win the World Series. You're going to really start to see those teams with those general managers start to acquire that elite status label, because they're going to make those trades that are not necessarily going to be popular for their initial fan bases. Like for me, Kane Bloom, the general manager for Boston, he traded away Andrew Benintendi to the Royals for Franchy Cordero. I mean, this guy, just up until the last couple of games, looked completely confused and lost at the plate, had no business being in the outfield, let alone right field at Fenway Park. Because, I mean, that's one of the more trickier right fields to play in all the major leagues. I mean, yeah, it's got the pesky pole right there where the stands jut out into fair territory.
Okay.
But yeah, he just looked just completely lost at the plate, and everybody's like, well, why don't we just DFA this guy, which is designated for assignments. Basically, we're releasing him.
I'm glad you cleared that off because I was
right. You're just going to kind of go with it and kind of hope that you were going to pick it up in translation.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of terminology in sports, and I'm learning a lot by even just doing the show, and that's what I really like about this. There really haven't been that much news other than the ranking.
Well, the big noisemaker this past week was the Angels. They DFA'd Albert Pujols.
Okay.
I mean, this guy spent the first part of his career playing, Hall of Fame caliber baseball for the Cardinals in St. Louis. He won a couple of World Series with the Cardinals. And then, it comes time for free agency, and he was one of these guys that went for one of those like $300-something million 10-year contracts. Anaheim picked him up, and they gave him that contract to come play first base and play, designated hitter in the American League. And he's got like 4 months left in his contract or something like that. It's like a year or 4 months or something. There's like some change left on that 10-year contract, and they decided to release him.
Yeah.
And the Angels are still going to owe him, I think, like $32 million.
Yeah.
But they, for whatever reason, they just felt kind of like, okay, well, this is the time that we really think that it's, they looked at the numbers and sense at it of it, and they were like, well, we can let him go. And we'll actually, we'll take a hit, but we'll come out better on the cash end of it. And it frees up some kind of like, it frees up payroll for them actually to do that, so they can go out. And I think that the Angels are really trying to get ready for the free agency to open up, and they're looking to free up some cash capital so that way they can use that as a bartering chip at the trade deadline. But it with the exception of, I think it was like 2003 or 2005. I think it was 2005. Anyway, so when the Angels won the World Series last, the one of the biggest complaints about the Anaheim Angels is that they've got Mike Trout, arguably one of the best players in all of Major League Baseball. The biggest overall consensus across the fan base of all the teams, across all of baseball, is that Mike Trout is wasting his career playing in Anaheim because he's never ever going to get to a World Series with Anaheim. And I mean, he's a great ball player. He puts up these stellar, like these astronomical numbers, slugging percentages, on base percentages, just his batting average alone, um, home run numbers being put up. I mean, we live in the age of the launch angle where I mean, this guy is just launching. I mean, his exit velocities on a lot of these hits. I mean, not even just the home runs, but just like his singles, doubles, and triples. The exit velocity of the ball coming off the bat easily clears 106 miles an hour.
Damn.
So I mean, this dude's putting a charge into it. So I mean, he hits everything on the screws almost. I mean, even when he hits something off the end of the bat, it just kind of seems like, at least for this part of the season, because I think he's still batting above 400, that it kind of just finds a place to land out there in the outfield, or just squirts through like a seeing eye single. I mean, the guy's constantly getting on base, but
So he's a valuable player because of
he
that.
is,
And
he's got one of those huge gargantuan contracts, and it's like, okay, people want this guy on their team, but they don't want to have to pay that fucking payroll, because if they pay that payroll, that means their ticket prices are going to go up, because that money's got to come from somewhere.
yeah.
And it's like, okay, so well, if the Anaheim Angels are going to put Mike Trout on the trading block, yeah, they're going to want cash considerations. Obviously, they're going to want the new team to pick up the rest of his contract so they can free up their payroll. But what else are they going to ask for in return? What kind of prospects? What kind what kind of major league ready players are they?
I don't know why they don't do the smart thing. Is if they have a valuable player right there, instead of giving a lump sum and everything, give them like a percentage of the ticket sales.
No, see, because at that point you're relying on the size of the market, and even though Anaheim, they're still considered the Los Angeles Angels. This Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim is what their long name is. It's like if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Mm-hmm.
But even though they share the same market as the Dodgers, the Angels are considered a smaller market, or they're like a mid-market team.
Okay.
The Rangers, for example, they're a small market team. So if you're going to entice this player to come and play for your team, and you're going to offer them a percentage of the ticket sales, unless you're playing in a large market area, that's not really an incentivizing tool. So I mean, so if the Rangers were to come up to Mike Trout and say, "Hey, we know that we're in the same division as you, and yeah, you're in a mid-market area. You're right next to the Dodgers and whatever, but come play in Texas, because I mean, what we lack for in market size, we're going to give you an atmosphere and leadership roles and stuff." That's not really. I mean, unless you're just playing just to play the game, yeah, fine. Come play for Texas, whatever. Go play in Tampa, or you can go play in that shithole known as the Trop.
Yeah.
But but you look at teams like Toronto, the Blue Jays. Right now, they can't even play in their home, at the Rogers Center up in Toronto, because Canada's still shut down because they're afraid of the almighty COVID.
Yeah, it's getting. Okay, I'll make this as quick as possible.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point to where people are like doing it when what happened in New York when this first came out is like we need to know where you're at and everything like that, and it's like okay. But off of baseball, the brackets for the NBA came out too, for the East Conference. 76ers is the top of the liners. The Knicks, the Bucks, the Nets, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Hawks, the Heat, Celtics, Hornets, Wizards, and Pacers.
Fuck.
Dyslexia.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Packers. Yeah.
My dyslexia hits really hardcore sometimes.
Well, where there's a will, there's an A. So just remember, focus on your phone.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And I don't have the West Coast. Let me look.
I saw something kind of unique. Oh yeah. So I would be remiss. Okay. So my girlfriend was here over the weekend, and I told you you've met her. She's big into basketball. Like that's her thing. Like she's about basketball like I am for baseball. So we're out. Just kind of. We're out on Friday night, and so we're just kind of running around and just being adults, right? So we go to Academy because she wanted to look for some new sandals or slides or whatever, right?
Okay.
And she wanted to get an outfit to go to wear, so that because we had like this small little American Legion function the next morning kind of a thing, so she didn't want to like ruin a bunch of clothes. Anyway, so we went to Academy. And so she's like, well, because I told her I'm an Aggie fan, Texas A&M, right? So I follow the A&M, and I follow Army. So it's like those are my two collegiate schools, right? So that everybody else I don't care. And that's only because, well, like grew up an Aggies fan, but I've got a dog in the hunt as far as West Point is concerned. But there you go.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I own 0 basketball jerseys. In fact,
yeah, I saw the basketball jerseys you wore today. I was like,
yeah. So I
What?
bought it. I was like,
Okay.
I said, if you're gonna drink the Kool-Aid, I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid too. So I bought a Luka jersey.
You want to know the fun fact?
Fine, lay it on me. Interrupt me, please. Go ahead.
Fun fact: he didn't really have Kool-Aid. Jim Jones. It was like the off-brand. It just said like red or purple or
Right.
blue or
He
anything.
mixed up Flavor Aid. That's what.
I mean, he couldn't even give him the actual Kool-Aid. Well, that's sad. I mean,
But
you're gonna.
the end result, does it really matter?
Yes. I want the high. If I'm gonna.
Because when you get sent to the afterlife and you're
Yeah.
asking, how did you, what is your take on how things?
Someone got great value brand freaking Kool-Aid.
Oh no!
That's-
Don't even hang Walmart on that. Don't hang that on Walmart.
Well,
I
we
mean,
have to. That's the only one everybody
that's
everybody
the generic.
knows.
That's the generic shit that you get from the food kitchens.
I don't even. Yeah.
From the
Basically,
food
it just says red or
Right.
purple or blue.
But getting back
Back
to my,
to-
but yeah, so
yeah,
getting back
you're
on
right.
track. So I bought this, and I'm like,
Okay.
you know what? I said just to show you, because she's like, oh, you're broadening your horizons. Like, oh, she was so proud of me. So I was like, okay, just kind of maybe a little percentage of it is out of spite, but the rest of it is kind of like, hey, I'm just, I am trying to show that, hey, because if you look at all of our episodes for the sports show, I've got baseball stuff on.
Yeah.
Every episode, I got to.
Except for me, I gotta get more
You
get
got
more
your-
variety of
yeah.
of
We need to get you something besides that Ace Ventura print. But
Yeah.
so look, I promised you I was going to wear it, and I'm wearing it here. So, but I saw an interesting little factoid as far as the NBA was concerned the other day, that if Russell Westbrook, he plays for the Wizards,
Okay.
Washington Wizards. If he's one triple-double away from the all-time record, and if he were to average 0 points and 0 rebounds a game between now and the end of the season, his season average would still give him a triple-double.
How is that possible?
Because the dude just crashes boards, he scores a lot of points, and he's really on he's on the top tier of assists in the league.
Oh wow.
I mean, we want to talk about, because you're going to see those like athletes that will go their entire career without winning at all, right?
Yeah.
Who was it? It was like we thought Peyton Manning was going to be that way. We thought John Elway was going to be that way. Tony Gwynn with the Padres, arguably one of the best hitters to ever play the game. Win his entire career. He made it to the World Series with the San Diego Padres, but they ended up losing to the Yankees. But I mean, like Mark Martin, if we're talking about racing, Mark Martin, arguably one of the best racers to ever strap into a race car. I mean, he had that work ethic. He knew how to drive those cars. Never won a championship. Came close, but never won a championship.
Yeah, there's some players that they can play their entire career.
They
and
go
not
there.
get, but they're top tier.
Yeah, I mean they've got that elite label attached to them, and their trading cards or whatever their memorabilia is, it's going to be it's very, very valuable, very highly sought after. But they never win it all. I mean, they never have the chance to lift that trophy, and I think Westbrook, unless he gets out of Washington, he's going to be one of those guys. Because for a while there, he was drafted. If I remember right, he was drafted by the Oklahoma City Thunder, played for them forever, and then he left. I forget where he went after that, but he was only there for like a short time, and then he went to Washington. But because now in the NBA, you start to see these super teams starting to pop back up. It's like Brooklyn with the Nets; they're trying to do that. I mean, they've got Kevin Garnett, or not Kevin Garnett, Kevin Durant, the guy with the beard. I can't remember his damn name off the top of my head. But I mean, you start to see these super teams. Like initially we saw them with Miami, and then all of a sudden, okay, now LA is doing the same thing, and it's like you see LeBron James popping up all over the place. Don't get me started on LeBron James because
We
LeBron
we've
James.
cut that we've cut that stuff
No,
because
no, no, no. I'm not. This is a different tangent. I mean, because
oh
he went down with a high ankle sprain, right?
uh-huh.
And now he has a press conference stating that he's like, I may never be 100% again ever in my career because of this injury. It's like,
You were never 100%.
how, I mean, the only thing that's 100% sure about LeBron James is his receding hairline.
And his ego.
Yeah, and his ego. It's
But
like,
we got the Western Conference playoff bracket too. We got Utah Jazz, Golden State Warriors, Phoenix Suns, Los Angeles Lakers, Los Angeles Clippers, Portland Trailblazers, Denver Nuggets, and Dallas Mavericks. So they're still in the playoffs. All right.
so you were saying with the Mavericks, but
Uh,
now they released the new power rankings for the NBA as well. So
yeah, Mavericks are fifth place.
yeah, let me see here. Let me get these pulled up here.
I think it's the Utah Jazz are number
Yeah,
one.
number one.
Number
one is
two.
the Sixers. The Suns. The Suns. I mean, like really, you haven't heard anything about the Suns all season long. I mean, the Suns is. I mean, they are your stereotypical like microcosm of
The underdog.
the David versus Goliath of everything. It's like here they are. It's like the last time you heard
mean,
anything relevant about the Suns was when Steve Nash was playing for them.
Yeah.
And that was way back in the day. That was like the days of Jordan.
Yeah.
You had that super team, so to speak. I mean, you just had a very well constructed team in Chicago, and they were going through and it just seemed to be that the Phoenix Suns was just constantly like that annoying thorn in the side of the Bulls. It's not that like they were beating them on a constant basis. Like we can't figure this team out. It just seemed like, comparatively speaking, over those short bursts, it's like the Suns could keep up with the fast break game of the Bulls. But
Yeah.
but yeah. So then the Jazz. The Jazz are sneaky. I mean, the Jazz have been sneaky this season. They play that small ball, but then they bust out and they surprise you with a like a run of like 16-2 or something like that. As far as like scoring and stuff like that on a nightly basis, and you just kind of look at them and like, how are you guys? No, how you do that? It's like, are you just catching everybody on an off night? Because you look at the way that their team is constructed, and it's just kind of like the new play-in format really kind of provides the top six teams in each conference 5 or 6 days off before game one of the first round. So it's like you get those 3 extra days versus a normal season where you get like if the regular season ended on a Wednesday, it'd be important for a few of those teams in the Jazz. So I mean, they could be at the top of that list, right? So, but it's like you get those few extra days, and it really kind of provides them with that extra needed rest, so that way they can get up and they can get ready to go toe to toe, so to speak. Travel baseline to baseline with these teams that have consistently maybe like outplayed them, but because they've got fresher legs, and they've been had more time to get out there on the practice court and work out their plays. You're going to start seeing that underdog kind of come to toe, and while they may not get through, the teams that end up beating the Jazz, they're going to know that they were in a dogfight, and it's gonna wear them out for the next round. It's going to be an interesting an interesting playoff season, or postseason to kind of watch. As far as the NBA is concerned. Then you got the Bucks. The Bucks, you hear about the Bucks every year. They get there, and then they're almost like the Denver Broncos used to be in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like or the Bills. They would get there and they'd be right there on the edge, and it's like they just show up for the playoffs, and they've become the practice targets for the rest of the NBA. You get in there, kind of like the Ravens used to be. Okay, and I only say that because we've got a friend of mine sitting off camera. You're off camera. Don't worry about it. The Ravens. When they first moved to Baltimore from Indianapolis, when they used to be the Colts, and then they became the Ravens, whatever. And it's like, okay, they had all these players from like because they would get that draft with the new organization. They'd get to like pick players, or whatever, right? So they built this pretty decent little team. and then they'd get to the playoffs, or they would get right there on the edge of making the playoffs, and it was just at that point they all of a sudden now we're going to just play the role of the spoiler until they had a chance to build up, build their scouting team and build. I don't want to say farm organization because it's not like baseball. Because with football, there's no B league. That's what college is for.
Yeah.
So I mean, once their scouting and drafting, teams finally got their shit together, and they started drafting these good players, and really started making moves, constructive, smart moves in the free agency, and trade deadlines. Then they started going out and becoming those perennial divisional winners, those perennial playoff contenders, and Baltimore's they've got what, 1 or 2 Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like they're scary enough to where that they're going to be able to compete with those elite level teams, mm-hmm. But like with the Bucks, they're going to need a few more pieces. It's not one of those, well, we're just right there. We just need one more piece. And it's like, no, you're not going to be like Tampa Bay, signing Tom Brady to a free agency contract and then have him come in and completely change the culture. I mean, Milwaukee is going to be probably about another 2 or 3 years away from being scary.
Yeah.
It was like watching the metamorphosis of the Houston Astros. It's like when they first came over to the American League, they were just like, they were who you went to go to chalk up wins in the win column, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were there. They were a stat padding team. It's like everybody went to Houston, or Houston came to your ballpark, and you just beat the crap out of them. But then when they got their new ownership, the ownership said, look, we're going to change the culture of Houston Astros baseball. We're going to go in here and we're going to draft responsibly in the MLB draft. We're going to build our farm system. We're going to do these homegrown prospects, and we're not going to trade the farm away for now. We're going to build for the future. And you started to see it start to happen. And it was right about 2014, 2015. I started telling everybody, I'm like, you watch Houston, because next, Houston's getting right there. I mean, they're like right there on the edge. And then, boom, all of a sudden, they win that World Series. Yes, I know there's an asterisk involved with their, with their World Series, championship. Yes, the buzzers in the sleeves, and the players got immunity.
How they pretty much stole that.
They stole a World Series. Yeah, exactly. You're going to hear those fans from the
because you're never going to know, because of all that stuff. You're going to never know how good the players actually are.
Right, and see, the thing of it is that if you watch like Jose Altuve, when they were at home during that season, okay, his home batting average was off the charts, crazy good. I mean, we're talking like he was hitting like 397 at home. Now, after all of that stuff about the cheating came out, and you looked at his home batting average the next season, it went down to like 275, 280.
Didn't they all do that?
They all did, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when you started hearing some of that chatter. It's like, well, it's a lot harder to guess a pitch than to know a pitch.
Yeah.
So, it's like you get, and do I think that the management, the coaching staff of the Astros needed to be suspended for a year? Yes. Do I think that somebody needed to be banned for life from baseball? Absolutely. But do I think that the players themselves, do I think that they deserve to be granted the immunity that they got from the head office of baseball? Absolutely not, because they were, while the coaching staff knew that it was going on and they didn't do anything to stop it, the players were the ones that were running the system.
Yeah.
Okay. They were the ones that were actively participating in the seat stealing, the sign stealing. Stealing signs has always been a part of the game. Yeah, but the problem is that once you start incorporating technology into it, then there's that fine line. That's when you start crossing into that territory of unfair advantage. So you want to get better at the game of baseball. You do it through self-discipline. You do it through practice. And you do it through a mechanical approach.
Yeah, because you have a lot of players that end up like they're top tier, and it's only because they pretty much put in the work. It's like back in the 80s with the whole
talking about the steroids era?
Yeah.
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. But with the steroids era players, you still needed to have that skill set. You still needed to be able to square up on a fastball and hit it out.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing that the steroids did was just increase the frequency that those balls cleared the fence. It increased the velocity that those pitchers were throwing those fastballs.
Or the cork bats.
Yeah, like Sammy Sosa with the cork bat, exactly. Now, do I think that players like Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, Ruben Sierra, the guys that heavily were involved in including A-Rod, kind of spearheaded that whole performance enhancing and drug era of baseball, do I think that they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? No, I don't. Because, we're sitting here, we're talking about guys who actively cheated at the game.
Yeah.
They used drugs to play and to gain that unfair advantage. And then we're going to sit here and we're going to go back on that standard and say, okay, well, you guys, we're going to make it hard for you to get enshrined. It almost became lucrative for guys to use steroids because they would get caught and then they would serve their suspension. And then they would come back and they would get signed to a deal that just like, okay, well, based on these numbers, we're going to pay you this much. Well, these numbers were kind of slanted because of the steroid use.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
But then they're going to get these guys that come in there and they got buzzers hiding under their sleeves, or they're listening for trash cans getting banged around in the dugouts to know what kind of a pitch is coming, and they're going to do that all the way through the playoffs and then steal a World Series out of it.
Yeah.
So they get a pass. Why? Because your coaches decided that they were going to throw themselves into the bus and fall on their swords like E2 Brutes, and they're going to fall into the
it's
sword
like the whole
style. No, I think that the players needed to, they needed to be held accountable by the front office. Now, because the front office refused to do it. Now, I know you're going to get a lot of purists that are going to argue with my point of view on this, but the game polices itself. Just like with football, and basketball, any other sport, competitive professional sports, whether it be racing or whatever, it doesn't matter. If the governing body refuses to do anything or does a insufficient job of disciplining either an entity or a player for their transgressions against the integrity of the sport, the game polices that matter up itself. Now, through baseball, we're talking about beating guys, when they're up to bat, or and fan bases just booing the shit out of them.
Yeah. Psychological.
Never in my life have I ever thought that I would find myself congratulating a fan base that belongs to anything New York. But the Yankee fan base over the weekend, really, they showed up in force because the Astros went to go play in New York for the first time since 2019. Okay. We got Yankees fans that are buying custom Astros jerseys with the name Cheater and then the number 17 on the back. The amount of boos and the amount of obscenities being yelled at, being hurled at the players.
Basically just all kinds of hate.
Oh, yeah. It was just pure unadulterated. And the rest of baseball and the rest of the baseball's fan base just kind of sat back and a lot of times, including myself, begrudgingly said, well played, Yankees, well played.
Yeah.
But, so, but with, like, you're going to get a lot of disparaging stats. You're going to see these guys that have these off these wall thing, and I think because of the amount of cheating that's been occurring on the professional level, you're going to get those random people that come up. They've got those generational skills like Mike Trout, like Mookie Betts, or like Tom Brady or Lamar Jackson with his ability to run out of the pocket and stay viable. It's a freakish thing, right? So you're going to look at these guys and you're going to be like, they're doing something that's not right. They have to be cheating because nobody should be that good. And I think that that's a direct byproduct of the fact that we've got these documented cases of people cheating. Now, I know that my friend who's sitting in the room, he's a diehard Ravens fan, is going to sit there and bitch at me because I'm a Brady guy. And he's like, well, Brady cheated. Well, yeah, but like Deflategate, where they were talking about
Yeah.
his numbers in the second half after they reinflated the balls got better. So it's like, really? And and I mean, the fact that he got caught cheating and then got better after the fact. It's like if you're gonna get caught, it's like what is it? It's if you're gonna if you're not cheating, you're not trying, and if you get caught, you're not trying hard enough. So it's like you're when you get caught cheating, you're gonna have all of these like microscopes put on you.
Yeah.
So it's like either you get more sneaky and you become like legendary ninja, level style, cheaty, or you're just going to have to rely on your skill and hard work. So it's like you get a lot of these different players that they fall into the latter.
Well, it's like someone telling me about their time when they're doing their special forces training and everything like that. And they were going through the qualifications and everything.
Right.
And it was like super rain and everything like that, and he was so frozen. He was frozen solid and everything like that, and he just sees one of the instructors just like breezing in the wind. Nothing phased him. This cold weather didn't phase him. The rain didn't phase him. And he finally caught up with him later in his career. He's like, man, you remember that one day that it was like pouring down rain and we were freezing and everything like that, and you had a campfire all set up for us. Whoever wanted to quit right there, go over there. It's like, yeah, dude, I was in a 3M's wetsuit. I was so freaking.
This was the instructor that was wearing the wetsuit.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
The instructor was wearing the wetsuit and everything like that. He was like warm and everything, and he was like, I'm surprised none of y'all like died of pneumonia or hyperthermia or something like that. I was like, oh, okay. So you knew it's one of those situations. If you know what's coming sometimes, and if you can hide it to show everybody that you're tough and everything, because I've had people like straight out punch me in the face, and they go to the next person and they punch him and they knock out. It's like, man, you were able to take that punch from that guy. How are you? You're one tough SOB, and I'm just holding my cheek. It's like, yeah. And then
on the inside, you're crying.
No, there's a way to do it. You roll your face.
Yeah.
You roll into the punch and everything.
But there's that saying, there's that phrase that sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good. So, and one of Murphy's laws of it's a static law of combat is that, the professionals are predictable, but the world is full of amateurs.
Yeah, but if he sucker punched me, I would have been out cold.
Yes, I mean, you knew it was coming. You knew how to prepare for it.
Yeah.
Or at least to the point where you could mentally deal with the pain and the shock from it. But
well, I had to deal with the pain, but that was another thing. Let me look that up because it happened in boxing, and it was horrid. And it happened in Dallas.
Oh yeah, speaking of boxing, okay, so Jake Paul, I cannot stand this guy, the YouTuber, right? This guy is a complete tool. He's I mean, to me, I think it's kind of a low-hanging fruit kind of a thing where he's trying to pick a fight with Floyd Mayweather. Now, I'm not a Mayweather fan. I know, but I'm not a Mayweather fan at all. Let me get that straight. Because Mayweather, he's more of a technical points boxer. He likes to dance around the ring. He'll get in there, jab you a couple of times, score some points, and then he'll get out, right? Because as far as like going back and forth, toe to toe, I don't think he's ever had a fight over his 41 straight victories. He's ever stood in the ring and went toe to toe with somebody. It's always been about in and out, dancing, jabbing, getting in and out, right? It's how he defeated Manny Pacquiao. And say what you want about Conor McGregor, but I think Conor McGregor went in there too hard, too fast. If he had tried to do the dance number with Mayweather as well, he probably would have had a better decision, than he did. But Jake Paul, I mean, this guy comes in, he's like, what, 3-0? And he thinks that he's hot shit. He's God's gift to the boxing world, and he's going to go in there and he's going to be like, got your hat. And he's going to take the hat right off of Mayweather's head and then run. Oh, again, I'm not a Mayweather fan at all, but I want Mayweather to whoop this kid's ass.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want him to just like knock him. I don't want a TKO. I don't want a decision. I mean, I want him straight knocked the fuck out. I mean, I want to see this dude passed out on the mat, having one of the doctors come in with the smelling salts, will wake his ass up, and he's like, "Where the hell am I?" You know, like he forgets who he is.
Basically,
for a
you want
minute.
him in a coma for like 2 weeks.
No, not a 2 week coma. I mean, not nothing permanent as far as physically, ego wise. I want this dude brought down to earth. You know, and it's like,
Yeah.
but just by getting that fight signed with Mayweather, even if he, you know, even when he loses, it's not a matter of if he loses. It's a matter of when he loses that fight, whether it's 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 5 rounds, whatever. He's gonna get paid.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's it. I mean, he's gonna walk away making at least $5 million off.
Because
this
they
fight.
they usually make the take off of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get the pay-per-view take. He's going to get whatever the contract from the sales are. Because, I mean, at this point, they're going to let people come and sit ringside and everything like
Yeah.
that. So, but I don't want Jake Paul to just lose. I want him to lose in a way that we talk about and sing about in folk song for generations. You know, I want to hear, you know, when I'm an old man rocking on the chair on the front porch, I want to hear ESPN do a 30 for 30 about about the tragic ballad of Jake Paul. You know,
Yeah.
I want to see that. You know, I mean, I know that that's very
Smoke a
epic.
cigar, have a little bit of whiskey, and like, I remember that day.
I remember that fucker. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you sit back and you just kind of swirl that brandy around.
But no, I couldn't find anything on it, and I kicked myself for not saving it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fight down in I don't know if it was this weekend or whatnot, but the dude got punched so hard, part of his cheek literally came off.
Oof.
Yeah, and I saw the. I'd still kick myself. I forget what it was. If anybody can comment on where it looked that up and at and what happened and everything like that, or if it's actually real, because I just saw like a quick image. I was like, oh, I got to talk about that, and then I forgot to save it. But we're cut for time on that one.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap this up, but yeah, definitely, you know, I'm going to stress this every week. Get involved with the show. Leave comments. Drop us an email, whatever. Go to our Facebook page, Angry Meat Productions.
I still
give
gotta
us a like.
I still gotta get that one guy that did something about the synchronized swimming a shirt. Who was that? Do you know? Because
We'll have to go back. We'll have to,
And
and
find
if you're
it.
watching this, definitely, hey, look, that was me. But then we'll go back and verify.
yeah, we'll get you a T-shirt.
Yeah, you know, honor system is not a thing here. We're going to go back and verify.
Yeah.
But definitely hit the subscribe button, give that bell a smash for notifications, get involved with the comments.
Look it up as on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, and
Yeah,
then on Spotify as well. So let's get this thing up and going. Give us share us out, and you know, get your friends and family turned on to the show. And
Yeah, because we're doing this for fun, and half the time it's kind of funny, and the other half of the time it's Dave. I can't believe that stuff. I already logged it the time stamp
oh yeah,
on
I'm
that.
not gonna lie, dude. There are days where I wake up and I'm just kind of like, man, I don't want to do this today. But then I'm like, you know what? No,
Dave's gonna say some messed up stuff.
like I'm doing it for the gram or something like that, you know. But yeah, but definitely give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow, do all
Yep.
that, and we'll talk to you guys next week.